Good evening, everyone. I am Nicole Murphy with momcomplicated.com, and welcome to Blogging411, where we talk for 30 minutes every Wednesday about blogging as a content marketer as well as blogging for an income. I'm extremely lucky to be able to co-host with the fabulous Allison Carter.
Hi, everybody.
And the amazing Randy Brown.
Good evening.
If you guys wouldn't mind just doing a really quick intro, and then I'll follow you up. Allison, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, everybody, I had some minor technical problems this evening, but we think we got it resolved. If I disappeared, don't worry. I'm okay. Don't send help. Everything's fine. My name is Allison. I started out blogging about 4 or 5 years ago, created a blog, sold it. Now I do content marketing for companies, and my URL is Allison B. Carter, ALLISON, B as in boy, Carter.com.
Awesome. Randy, if you don't mind.
Yep, I'm Randy. I own ihelpers.net. I own several websites that are rather large. I'm more of a webmaster than a blogger. When I say large, they get a lot of traffic and generate substantial income. I also have a blog, but like I said, I'm not much of a blogger. And I like to try to help new bloggers and new webmasters get up and running and learn how to do all those things that seem so difficult.
Again, as I said, my name is Nicole Murphy. I'm with momcomplicated.com. I come from a long history of event planning and restaurant management, and then I moved that over to broadcasting events through social media with my former company, Talking Moose Media. And now I am transitioning into being a stay-at-home mom that blogs and homeschools. So we are doing everything from momcomplicated.com. And I just wanted to point out that Randy is not giving himself enough credit. He has brought in a ton of money. Isn't it like almost $500,000, like a ton of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. He does blog often. He gives great advice. So don't let him be shy. He's an excellent resource, and that is why we've chosen him. And I love Allison dearly, but since we're girls, we like to talk and we don't mind introducing ourselves. So let's jump into the into the topic tonight, and we're just starting from the very beginning. So if you have just started a blog, that's congratulations. You picked your URL, you figured out who you're going to host with, you might even have an idea of what you are going to talk about, but now what? So it might seem like you got knocked a lot of things off your to-do list, but I hate to tell you, you're just beginning. So the first thing that we want to talk about is, we've heard, you know, do you launch your blog? Like, how do you really start this whole process? When you have a brick and mortar store, you have a grand opening, and you have these coming soon signs that you put on the windows. But what do you do when you have a website or a blog? Allison, how did you just launch your new website?
Well, for each blog and or website that I've launched, it's really been determinant on what the goal is and what the services are that are provided. For my creative writing website, my Go Dance Ger Mom, where my freelance parenting writing and creative writing is based, that actually needed a lot of content on it, I felt, to keep people coming back and returning, because all it was my creative writing. I felt at that point with one post, if people were to come to the blog and I had one post, it might not have been enough reason for them to stick around or return visit to me. However, with my content marketing and social media strategy, that really is about the services that I can provide to businesses. The blog is the icing on the cake to make people understand that I'm an industry leader and that I know what I'm talking about most of the time-ish. So it really, for me, was determinant upon the project that I was doing.
And Randy, what is your opinion on the quote-unquote launch? Like, how do you start your websites?
Yeah, I've never launched a website. I've talked to people and worked with people that they wanted to launch their website, and they thought everything had to be done on a specific day and a date and a time, and that was the big event. I've never done that. I kind of like to call it, when I start a website, squeezing a tube of toothpaste. It just kind of comes out slow, and unless you're going to be doing a lot of advertising, or unless you have some reason to make it happen at a certain date and time. Don't think. I tell people, don't think that you have to turn it on a certain day. Turn it on Monday. Write your first post Monday night, second post. Get some stuff in there. You don't want to have a dead, empty blog, but it can be alive, and Google can start to see it. And get some stuff in there. Then go and start spreading the word, and so you don't want to start advertising it or talking about it on social media until it's something worth seeing. But don't get hung up on the term launching it on a certain date. Just turn the damn thing on and start putting stuff in it.
Well, a big part of that too is that it's never going to be done. I mean, like Randy said, is squeezing a tube because even 3-4 years later, there's still going to be tweaks that you're going to make. So I think that he's right.
Yeah, I definitely think that a website or a blog is something that you're always tweaking and always changing, and there's always something new. And really, every year and a half to 2 years, you want to take a good hard look at your colors and your theme that you're using to make sure that you are current and you're not dating yourself that way. But for me and Mom Complicated, so for when I launched Talking News Media, I did that. I just kind of like started, and every time I ran into somebody, I'd be like, "Hey, I started a blog." But it, with Mom Complicated, I think it helped us kind of get in the mindset because we were being so aggressive with how much we were going to be posting, and we really, really wanted to start showing up in search and start getting recognized by Google right away. We had a specific plan in mind where we were posting twice a day, and we were using Google Plus, and we were using all of our social media outlets. So we had set a date for a couple of months down the road where it was, on January 1st, we're launching this thing, come, whether we're ready or not, so we're just going to do it. And so we kicked open the door with very aggressive, posting so that we would get that traffic that we wanted. We didn't want to wait a year for that kind of traffic. So I've heard a lot about the term pillar posts when you want to launch something, and I don't think either of you guys, Allison, have you heard about that term?
Yes.
Okay, good, because Randy was like, "What are you talking about?" So they're just, I've heard that you should at least start with 7 posts so that you do have the opportunity for people to click around and get a good feel for what you're going to talk about, and that really is, 7 posts about what your blog is really going to be about. And so if you can't get through those 7 posts before you launch, you might want to think about whether you want to have a blog or not. And then Allison had an excellent point when we were chatting about this earlier, was about the editorial calendar. So Allison, if you want to tell everybody about that.
Sure. Well, let me just explain a little bit more what pillar posts are. So pillar posts, like Nicole said, you have 7 is kind of a nice magical number, but don't be beholden to that. Don't be like you have to have 7 or you can only have 7. But pillar posts are really, think of it as the foundation of what your blog or website is. You want them to be evergreen, is a term we throw around a lot. Evergreen means that they're not based on a passing fad, that in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, that content is still going to be relevant and helpful to someone. So your pillar posts usually try to be evergreen. They also try to be lengthy. Think of it as a tutorial. So if you were to sit down and say you have a business and you're opening a hair salon, maybe you want to sit down and do a pillar post all about how to find a hairstylist that fits, the questions you should ask. Something like that that's a little more in-depth, a tutorial that people can refer back to. In a pillar post, you also want to try to link to other resources that you identify as being in your niche. That kind of helps your SEO and also makes people understand what niche you're going for. So that's kind of what pillar posts really are. They're the essence of what your blog and your website are going to be. When we talk about an editorial calendar is building you for the year, or however length of time you want to pick. If a year is overwhelming, go for 1 month, go for 2 months. And an editorial calendar is a sketch where you say, I'm going to talk about this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. By visualizing it in your editorial calendar, you can see themes. You can kind of direct the arc of your blog and give your readers some sense of what to expect and make sure you're addressing things. Sometimes we might get stuck on talking about the same thing over and over again because in our personal lives it seems really relevant, whereas that might not get you the most readers. Having an editorial calendar helps you really plan better to make sure that you're getting everybody you can.
Right, and absolutely, I would point out, and Randy, don't worry, we're going to talk about the links and the SEO thing in just a second.
Well, let me jump in and throw in one thing real quick.
Okay.
Those are what Allison just said. Those are all great ideas. I've never done any of those for any of my websites. So don't think that. I mean, it's good if you do those, and if it helps you. But don't think that if you didn't do those, you just started your blog and you didn't do those. It doesn't mean you're going to fail. It's just a great method, a great a way to help you think things through. On my very first website, I guess you could call it pillar posts. I set myself a goal to have 100 posts in 30 days, and all around what the website was about. So maybe those are pillar posts. I guess they are now that I think about it. I just never thought of it that way. But I didn't not open the website until those were done. I just I turned it on. I started making them, and I almost hit that goal. It was a tough goal.
That's amazing. Well, so the good news about when you start a blog or a hangout show or anything new is the good news is that nobody's watching you, and the bad news is nobody's watching you.
Right. Well, you know what? That's a good point, because a lot of people think that they're going to start their blog and turn it on, and it's just going to be like a wave or a flash flood of people coming in. No, it's not like that. You turn it on, or when you're blogging, it's like you're talking to an empty room. You're standing up in front of an empty room, and that's just normal.
I'm going to interrupt for a second because I feel like that's more on a personal blogging level. But if you're a business and you already have an established reputation or an established audience, your blog really does matter. So I'm thinking of somebody who might be watching, and she already has for herself a huge Facebook presence. She has a huge sense of who she is. She has people who follow her a lot already. People actually might be tuned into her very first blog post.
Okay, so that's a good point. That's a good point.
She's already established. So it just kind of depends on where you are in your journey, I think.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I'm always thinking of the little guy starting from nothing, but you're right. So, but don't be discouraged. Was my point, that if you don't get that flood right away, for most people, it's normal.
Yeah. Just on a side note, I'm just not sure. If somebody that watches these can just put a compilation of all of the times that the camera's going to go to me while I'm trying to not laugh, and I make that really yucky face. Like down the road, if someone could do that for me, that'd be great, because I would really love to see that. So let's talk about SEO and links and linking in between, because it's been brought up, and I know that there's going to be different schools of thought on this. So Randy, why don't you go ahead and talk about, should you, in your opinion, and again, all three of us do things differently, and I think that's why it's so great that we've come together to talk about this. But right. Why don't you link? Because I don't think you link really to anyone, do you?
Okay, so when you say SEO, that's a big term, and it means a lot of things. And there's some foundations of SEO that Google tells us about. It's freely available. Some basics that it takes that would make sense to learn, or maybe pay somebody that you know or trust to help you with them. So for linking, I'm very careful who I link to, and I'm also in the old days, and a lot of old school SEO people told you to get as many incoming links as you could as quickly as you can, and I don't think that's a good idea anymore. I think a lot of people agree that's generally a bad idea. I always tell people, especially, and I'm thinking mostly of the little guy, so not somebody with a big audience, it may be different, so we'll get Allison's perspective, but I tell them at the beginning, focus more on your content and getting a decent website for your visitors before you even worry about SEO. I've dealt with people that are all hung up on SEO, and am I doing this, am I doing that right, or whatever, and I just tell them, you know what, don't worry about that. It's not going to matter if you don't have a website that's got anything that doesn't have your pillar posts or good content in it. So, there's a lot to talk about with SEO, and we'll probably have a lot of shows on just that.
Yes,
but for the beginner, you know what? Don't worry about it so much.
I actually totally agree. I think that start writing your content SEO is tricky. It's always changing. There are reasons why there are professionals who make their career out of SEO. It's a tricky industry. It's a tricky thing, and it doesn't always really help you either to focus on that. I think that if you start building content that is really important, if you start providing useful information, if you start networking with people in your market and industry and in your niche in a real meaningful way, you're going to start to build that SEO organically, which means like naturally, which is the best kind that you can get. I think that I like outgoing links because I think that there's certain styles of blog posts that you can write. You know, you can do a tutorial, you can do a how-to, you can do a thought, you can do a free thinking, you can do a dreaming, you can do an achieving, you can do a goal setting, blah-de-blah-de. But one of the big things that I like is I like providing people news where it's not just all me talking, because I love hearing me talk, but not everybody loves hearing me talk as much. So I like providing, like, hey, have you heard about this person, or have you heard about that person? Nicole, I know you do a lot of that too, and it's not for SEO, it's not to get that link hit, it's because you're really trying to be a resource and pointing out people and cultivating and curating. So if you're doing these outgoing links, even in your pillar posts, like I mentioned earlier, do it because it makes sense. Don't do it because you think that the person that you're going to link to is going to say, awesome, I'm going to share your content, thanks for linking to me. We do it because it makes sense for what you're trying to write, what you're trying to say, and where you are in the market.
Do it because it makes sense for the person that's reading it. Okay?
Absolutely.
Always write for your viewer or your reader first, always. And if you do that and you do it well, the rest will almost all fall into place.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, we keep talking about your pillar posts and your posting and your schedules. How long do you think a post should be? There's a lot of schools of thought on this. For the first 30 days, we did nothing under 1,000 words, and then now, if it makes sense, we'll stick to around 750, but really we try really hard not to go under that. Like if it's, a resource post where we're just linking a whole bunch of places that you can buy stuff for your Easter basket, there's not a lot to go around that. But we do try to stay between 750 and 1,000, and a lot of that was just to condition ourselves for that writing style and to be able to be more elaborate and just descriptive in our writing. So what do you guys think as far as the average blog post? Like, what is the word count that people can be like, okay, I can wrap it up now?
Right. Well, first, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. It'll depend a lot on your readers. For my readers, 1,000 words, 1,500 words is generally too long. I like to try to keep my posts between 300 and 700 words. I've got a few, depending on which website it is, it'll go up to 1,500, 2,000 words. And a lot of people will tell you, the more the better, but that's not necessarily true. Again, if it's just too much to ingest and too much to read, that's not necessarily better. Maybe Google would like it better, but if your readers don't like it, that's not real helpful. Mm-hmm. I have one website that was a total failure, and I think the reason that it was a failure is because what it did and the way the posts were, they were only a sentence or two long. And that is not a good idea, strictly SEO-wise. So 2 sentences, I think, is too short. 10,000 is probably too long. So just keep it somewhere between 2 and 10,000, depending on what's good for your readers, and I think you'll be okay.
See, folks, I told you, he's super, super helpful
really
in his ways. Allison?
Well, we've been getting a lot of news in SEO again. For search engines to really weight what you have going, 1,000 words is kind of the magic number. For whatever reason, Google has decided that if you have 1,000 words in your blog post, it's going to like you a little better. That's what we've been told. I don't know if that really makes a difference. I think that 2 sentences is too short because somebody's going to look at it, click on it, and say, well, why did I click on this? There's 2 sentences here. I want some meat. I want some information. If you overwhelm them, though, they're not going to stick with you because who has time to read, anywhere that long? I have found, actually, that rather than worry about word count, worry about how you're formatting. And I think that when you make it easy to read, it doesn't matter quite as much what your word count is either way. If it's short and you have a lot of text that's bolded, that's short, snippy text that somebody's going to laugh at or really get a good quote from that, it doesn't matter if it's short. If it's long and you're listing or you're bulleting or you're giving them the highlights right away, so if somebody's a skim reader, they pop on for 2 seconds, they skim and they get the gist. If somebody wants to come back and refer to it for more in-depth information, they can save it, favorite it, come back to it later, and it gives them a second read. So I personally have found that in my blogging career, especially for businesses and companies, formatting matters more than trying to stick to a certain word count.
That's interesting. And when you were talking about formatting, I'm making a public service announcement and plea. If you could please not use 12 pixels or 14 point as your text on your website, that would be fabulous. What do you guys think? I think ours is set at like 18. It could be 16, but I think it really is 18 or like even 20.
When I started my first website, one of the main tenets, laws, was this is going to be easy to read, because I hate those websites with the tiny, like you said, with the tiny font, with ads jammed everywhere, and I have to sift through to figure out what's an ad and what's content. So most of my websites I've always kept easy to read, large type, not very cluttered, because that's me as a reader, that's what I prefer. I'm sure that not everybody prefers that, but that's what I like. The people that I've talked to, that's what they like, and that's what I do.
So do you remember what your pixel or your point is, your font size?
No, it's big. Larger than average on most of my websites.
I'm not a designer, and I'm totally opposite. I like my stuff small. I take my Kindle app and I shrink it all to the smallest text. I want as much on the screen so I don't have to scroll as much. That's just me. But my designer for my website, who's very good, I trust a lot, she really said, you just can't do that. 16 is minimum in the industry now. 16 is the minimum. So we had a big to-do about that, but she's right. She won. I trust her. I think you guys are right.
Was that Kelly Phillips?
No, Sandra.
Okay. Sandra. Well, Sandra, thank you for saving the rest of us.
And your eyes.
Tiny points. And so from that, we want to talk about how often you should post, because I know that this is something that people really kind of hang on to, and they really want to know, like, what is too little, what is too much. And no one's allowed to say, whatever you feel. You have to come up with something other than that. You have to come up with an answer.
I always tell people, write whatever you feel. No, that's another one of those ones where there's no right and wrong. I always tell people to do as much as you can. I think that more is better than less, but I don't know. And Google has never told us, so anybody telling you here is the answer, unless it came from Google, they're just wishing or hoping or guessing. I tend to say more is better. On one of my very popular websites, I try to do at least one a day. I'll probably end up averaging 6 or 7 a week, and that one does good. But I've done that on other websites and they completely failed. So I go with more is better.
What I tell people in personal blogging is aim for 3 a week. My biggest pet peeve in blogging is when people think that they have to do one post a week, or one post a day, and then they end up throwing up content that is just not good content.
It's written just to be written.
Yeah, just to be written, just to have something up, just to have new material up. That actually hurts you more than it helps you. You'd be better served to really put a lot of energy and thought and commitment and passion and belief into 3 posts a week and push those on the off days, or share something on social media on the off days that you're not posting that's relevant but from somebody else or something like that. So Once a day is a great goal if you're a business and you've got a team and you've got resources, or if you think that you really can do it, you're really just that committed, you've started mapping out ideas and brainstorming about what you want to blog about, and you just feel like you've got enough content to do a post a day. But I would say 3 a week is kind of a good starting point to get your rhythm, get going, get people understanding that you're regular, that you're here to stay without overtaxing yourself. And just don't put up stuff just to put up stuff.
I definitely agree. I've told people even to start with 2 a week, and then if they're consistent with that for 90 days, then bump it up, because we all know, all of us, we overshoot all the time. But with that, whether you choose 2, 3, or 5, definitely try to get a consistency with on day 1, I'm going to post about this topic. On day 2, I'm going to post about this topic. Day 3, this topic. And that really just kind of challenges you to be consistent, and then everyone knows what to expect on those days. Even if you don't have to come out and say, today is Taco Tip Tuesday. You don't have to do that. You just consistently post about that thing on that day.
And don't feel like if you're shooting for your 3 a week or your 7 a week or whatever, and you have a bad week and you can't make any posts for a week or 10 days, it's not over. Doesn't mean you're going to drop out of Google and game over.
Take your ball, go home.
No, yeah, it just, you have a bad week or whatever, you don't get 1 or 2 out, fine, pick it back up the next week. It's not, nothing happens overnight. Everything on the internet and with Google is very slow and doesn't take effect right away. So if you miss a week, don't think you're a failure.
And I have to put in a personal note for people who are doing personal blogging who are moms, exactly what Randy said. Don't get hung up on that, because guess what? Summer's coming. And I can't tell you how many mom bloggers I know whose kids are on summer vacation, who every summer it's the same drill. I'm going to lose my audience. I'm going to lose my readers. It's going to be all over. I'm not going to be able to post as much. People are flexible, and just, don't stress about it too much. Just remain true to your voice. Put up good content when you can, and things will come.
Yeah, and
let me throw something in there.
I'm talking. So, so 2 things that I've realized and learned from having such an aggressive posting schedule and then having real life happen is you have things hopefully that you've planned out that you wanted to talk about. Write those posts. Also, when you get a creative spurt, go ahead and write those posts, but schedule them out. Keep them in your back pocket for when you can't post. And also, if you know the summer's coming up, gather your posts together and do my 5 favorite cleaning posts, my 4 favorite shopping posts. Just repurpose that content, because there are going to be some people that haven't seen it, and then there are going to be some people that say, oh yeah, I totally love that post too, and they're going to share it. And now that Pinterest is here, there's a whole different opportunity with pinning it. So just don't, when you do fall back or you have that creative spurt, remember that there are going to be times where you're going to be really happy that you have those blog posts in the back of your pocket. And then go ahead, Randy, really quick, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
All right, I was just going to say really quick along the lines of readership, those people that come to your blog and continue to come back, those same people that come back and then being afraid to lose them. I've never actually targeted that same repeat base of viewers. I've always targeted the one-time flyby through Google, which has worked for me. It would be better if those people came back, but I was just going to say something along the lines of, don't, kind of like what Allison said, if you have a bad summer or a bad week, it's not like they're all going to run off and disappear. You will still hopefully always have people coming in, flybys from Google, just looking for whatever it is you're writing about.
Okay, I do have a question from Jessica Hip, and she's asking, is the topic a day a good tip for social media as well?
I'm sorry, meaning assuming that she means focusing on a topic every day in your social media. So for example, if you were to do Taco Tips Tuesday, that would then translate to your social media as well.
That would naturally answer. Yeah, I think because she doesn't have a blog yet. So Jessica, when you are writing a blog post, you're going to push that out on social media, so you're going to naturally be talking about that on social media as well. So I think that might answer the question. If it doesn't, go ahead and comment below, and then we'll address it. But tell me what's going on, Allison. I know that you have a blogging class coming up.
Oh, yeah. So I am going to present to some folks in Raleigh, particularly mom business owners, about how to create content for your business. Meaning that, you need to blog for your business, but a lot of people are business oriented and they say, I just can't come up with things to write about. I don't know what I could blog about. What can I possibly say, especially if I'm going to try to post every day of the week? So I'm going to do a 2-hour class all about ideas how to come up with ideas, tools that are out there to come up with some good ideas for that. So.
And what day is that?
Oh God, it's on my phone. Nicole. It's on my calendar.
We'll put the link down in the event, and you can also go to vendraleigh.com/events and go ahead and sign up there. It is a steal of a deal. It's like $5 or $15 to go, and Allison knows her stuff, and she's going to set you up really well. So I just want to, as the great Mia Voss would say, pimp her out, because people need to go to this class. I was like, what? This is awesome. So, and hey, Mia. I was complaining to Mia earlier about my lack of soda 30 minutes before a show. So thanks for stopping by. And Randy, why don't you tell me what's going on with you?
Same old thing that I'm always doing. If you need help getting your new website or blog online, or need help fixing a broken blog, or doing something like getting AdSense up and running on your blog, you can find me at ihelpers.net or on Twitter at ihelpersllc. Of course, Randy Brown right here in Google+. I'm always here to help.
So Randy would be talking about the fact that I'm trying to get AdSense on momcomplicated.com, and
it's not always easy.
Apparently, it's like the easiest thing in the world except for me. So I have been, so this is like, Randy's an excellent person to have on retainer, because then you can just talk to him and drive him nuts all day and be like, that didn't work, this didn't work, can I screen share with you, when do you have time available, help, I don't understand, where do the ads go, So you could do that. It's totally worth the money. But thank you very much for everyone stopping by this week. And next week we're going to delve deeper into editorial calendars, SEO, social media. Do you need fancy widgets and all sorts of things and bells and whistles, or should you just buckle down and post some good content? So thanks for visiting us, and we'll see you next week.